Ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀ lọ bá jó, ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀ lọ bá jó, olúwa mi ò dìde ojú ṣẹ̀kẹ̀rẹ̀.
Hello and welcome to the Ashen Forge. I am Phantom X, joined as always by Diggs and the legendary Neurotoxin. Hello, you fine men. How's it going?
Hello.
Been a little bit.
Yeah.
Always my. I feel like every episode opens up with "It's been a little bit," and it's been my fault.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, it's okay. It's not like a ton is happening.
It's cool though, right? So we got something really fun. I think probably one of the bigger things we've seen come about, right, since Alpha 1 ended, as far as what's been shown besides art and, prototype things that you kind of expect to see out of their streams, which is their character creator. So
I did see a tweet yesterday, the day before, that said, really? We had to wait an extra week and that's all we got? Was that character creator?
makes you wonder what they had to fix.
Well, and it's just Steven is a perfectionist, and he's kind of everything's his baby, and he wants it to look good, and he doesn't want people to complain.
Not
and
a
people are going to complain
perfectionist.
anyway. Yeah.
Not necessarily a perfectionist, but yes, you've got it right. He doesn't want anything to go out there that doesn't look good. Like,
Well,
everything needs to
that's
look solid
why.
and be enjoyable and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's why we can't get the last two Know Your Nodes articles that were written 2+ years ago, because it might change. And this is one of the things that I've been saying. Just Alpha 2 is people are also wanting Alpha 2 news, which I think is not going to happen in the next couple of months. Probably we're going to need to see some Talnar. We'll probably need to see a touch up of the Valoon. We're going to start needing to see some augments, the classes. There's lots of stuff that we're probably going to see months before we get Alpha 2. But yeah, I think we knew that the character creator was going to take a while. So, and they're touching up, they're adding these changes anyway. I'm surprised that we get all this diversity in the KLR. So we'll see. But it was great to get our first pass of the character creators since Alpha 1.
Yeah.
Can't believe it took a week. That's
Alpha 1 did not really feel like much of a character creator.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what do you mean character creator?
It felt like you were snapping some like pre-built character pieces together, and that's all. And that's not that's completely different. That's Legos compared to this is, some fine sculpting sort of stuff. People were saying about BDO being one of their favorite systems and this being comparable or potentially better. I remember Arc being pretty good, that you could make a pretty dynamic range of weird and freaky person with it, way outside the proportions and bounds of a human. And, and it was just for one race. It was just for, your human model and however much you wanted to modify and mess around with it. But it didn't look like, from what I remember, anything nearly as close. Like they said, they had the little handles and the bones you can rotate and such. And that's a lot more dynamic, like they said, than the experience of slider, 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 slider. Okay, next part of the body, slider, 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 slider. especially because you can potentially be manipulating multiple components of it at once instead of, doing guess and check with multiple sliders trying to affect just one part of it. So I'm excited to see how it's all going to come together. What the full UI UX is going to be like, use of asymmetry, how that's going to work out. Um, it's going to be funny. I'd said, after seeing the demo, there's going to be someone out there who's going to play like a wizard with gigantic arms and a tiny rest of the body and tiny head. And
I mean, you can't leave, you're going to leave the crotch tiny in that situation too.
We'll see. That's that's one of the ones, and like they're saying, crotch might not necessarily be the word. I don't know what they're going to go.
If people want to talk about extremes, they need to ask, Smed about Hero Song and some of the
oh yeah, the nipple piercings or whatever.
Well, I mean you had it all, right? I mean, not just nipple piercings. I mean, didn't they plan for like cock rings and everything?
Yeah, I think so.
So I'm just saying, that everyone seemed a little, crotch, giggle, giggle. You need to talk to Smed about his ideas, and you see the extreme.
I hadn't heard about those ideas.
Oh yeah,
more extreme than I was expecting.
Anyways,
especially the resolution that we were getting. But okay, for Hero Song.
All you had to do was look at the character creator or the character sheet, rather.
It was Steven who was saying that he was going for better than BDO or better. But once we heard that they were moving to Unreal 5, I was hoping that would mean that they would get pretty close to either be able to use MetaHuman Creator or be able to make something similar to MetaHuman Creator. And I think they got pretty close. They have most of the stuff that I was hoping for. The only thing from MetaHuman Creator that I feel is missing is being able to import your face and use that as a template, like input a picture of your face and use that as a template. But it seems like if they can get fairly close, or even you can get reasonably close to your face or other faces that you like, you can use the blends tool to help you craft something that you're looking for.
I would also say, don't worry too much about what features may or may not be in the Alpha 2 character creator. That's all that we're going to be seeing for now. And it is just that. It's the Alpha 2 character creator. Whether additional character creators in the future, the further additions are going to mean more assets and more choices, or if it's going to mean more tools and more clarity in how to use it, or if it's the character creator for Alpha 2 is really pretty close. Once we get the rest of these features in that people will see in beta 1, it's pretty much just fine tuning from there. And so we might see close to what is going to be finished, but being able to import your picture like you were saying, it doesn't seem like something that would be too necessarily difficult for them to do. It would be a lot of tech, of course, unless they're able to utilize a feature that's already built into something that makes it easier. In which case,
there might also be some restrictions, like they were saying with tattoos and stuff. Once you start being able to import pictures, that might be problematic for customer service.
You said import my picture. I immediately start thinking about what people are going to try to import and to see what they get out of it.
Exactly. One quick thing, when we were mentioning BDO, in BDO, I could not make characters that had African features. So you could do tanned, Asian, or European features, but you couldn't actually do African features. And I think they made it a point to get a little bit closer, pretty close as far as what I could see. So I don't know if it's exactly African, but my concern was that it was only going to be like Middle Eastern and European Middle Eastern for Kalar, I think, and Valun, and is that right, or am I getting it mixed up? Valun, which one was Middle Eastern?
I think that was Valun.
Valun Middle Eastern and Kalar European.
Yeah.
But it seems like they have a wide range. I did see some Asian or Polynesian features from what they showed in the demo, and then in the seems like we could get some Latino or Indian from India features, Middle Eastern features. Probably have to work some with the hair, but even once we can manipulate the nose and all that and the lips, I think we'll be able to get pretty close. So
yeah, Diggs, you did BDO character. Have you done play BDO Neuro? Yeah, I mean his character creator is pretty good. I mean, as far as not just sliders, but using other points and expanding, shrinking.
Yeah.
I have to say,
that's cool.
For saying this is an alpha product, this looks pretty damn good for an alpha state, alpha 2, I guess. But I look at it and I think, well, what besides UI, what actually, what else can you make better? I mean, it looks, some of those models were just, I don't know what the right word is, beautiful. I mean, they looked, the detail just in the eyes.
Unreal 5. It just makes everything look beautiful automatically.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
That was the thing I'd said to the Unreal 4 engine compared to Unity and some other things. Out of the box, things just look good in Unreal 4. You have to work hard to make something look like crap in that engine. So 5, even better.
Yeah. And so I think what I saw on the forums people were asking for, it's kind of strange because it's the first pass demo, so of course it's fairly bare bones. More hairstyles. Well, yes, I'm pretty sure we're gonna get more hairstyles.
As long as Jinzy's there, we're gonna keep getting more hairstyles, and she's just continuing to knock it out of the park. Seeing the length slider and what the different lengths actually look like, that's really nice. Like that's a great amount of detail, and I appreciate it.
It was amazing. Mm-hmm.
Oh, you go ahead. I was
going to say it was amazing. The beards ended up looking a little wonky when they got super long, but again, for a first pass, it was good enough.
They're gonna do. Did I remember right? They're gonna probably do like contests and things like this. Did I hear that? Did I make that up in my mind?
Yeah, no. They were definitely talking about doing contests.
I mean,
you are not tripping on that.
Which really any MMORPG that has they say that, it's like, yeah, you're right. But this one, it's like, okay, yeah. I mean, if you have that much control, I can see. Because the other thing, I would often be. Look at a character creator and think, well, that's cool. Even BDO is similar because it's, I guess the question in my mind is always how much does the average person actually care? Like how much time will the average person actually spend in creating a character and utilizing the tools that they're putting out there? I guess the two positives there is that they are going to release it early, so people will get to, that especially as we get close to release, people are going to be so eager to do something that if they have a character creator, they're going to use it. And then the others, as you mentioned, Neuro, is the idea of, I guess it's being used in animal husbandry and other scenarios where it's like, okay, well, this is a tool that just needed to be made anyways. But I do wonder, I always wonder, like BDO, how many, it was such a big deal because it had such a good character creator. Okay, how much of their gamer base actually cares that much? But this is just really cool. So
aesthetically, they could even use this for pieces of equipment and features in the environment. There's a lot they can do with this. In fact, I was thinking about the idea of this being used as a way to not fully procedurally redo a dungeon, but to make it look different over time. The node changes to a different tier. And as some of the new roads open up in it, like will happen when a place levels up, it would kind of get like a little bit of a redraw, and it kind of blends shapes within a few variants of itself and then repopulates based on where those would put items. Be a pretty nice sort of thing. And then likewise, even if it would be only 2 or 3 shapes, perhaps having that sort of weighting and control for custom aesthetic item creation, being able to make a sword or a shield or a tabard or a cape or something like that with just a lot of different detail, because you've got a few different shapes that you're able to mix between, and then a few different color options and layers on top of that. But being able to do it in such a way that it uses the sort of low impact systems and features that the character creator is trying to do to give a high amount of variance and control with a low impact overall. Low impact with an asterisk. This is an Unreal 5 engine game, and I think 900 series, 1000 series, maybe even probably 2000 series NVIDIA graphics cards are going to be on the low end for what's really going to be able to play the game and make it look nice.
Yeah, so you'd start off with one sword and use blends to one or a few templates, and then you can blend and all that for your NPC gear.
A few different color channels and material channels for the different parts, so the wood and the pommel and the gemstones and the little engraving and all that sort of stuff. Being able to change all that stuff up just a little bit and give it a little bit more character and class that's signature to your character and their style. And I think one of the things that's really nice about that is it gets away from that problem that I always thought was hilarious in WoW, where somebody would rather wear a matching set of equipment than have something that doesn't match, doesn't have the exact same name and style. And so they'd be underleveled and they're role playing or whatever, and that's how they want to roll. But it's just silly to me. This was back in vanilla where there weren't any like aesthetic slots or anything like that. I don't know what the game turned into.
That's not silly. One, I'm fashion over function, role play over function. And yeah, I mean, part of role playing means that, you might have a character who's not super, right? That's a weakness. You're supposed to have flaws as well as perks.
No, you're not.
I believe they're
Yes, you are.
intending to overcome that problem in this case, where part of the min-maxing process is getting something custom crafted, and in the process having it look the style that you want. So it's a little, best of both worlds sort of thing going on. It's pretty cool, actually.
Well, these days we got transmog.
If we get to see it, of course.
We got transmogs as well, so it's not going to be an issue.
I never even thought about
an issue these days.
The idea of implementing something like this for a crafter, that you have your armor smith, and whether they can open up a screen, a UI that resembles something similar, and they're adjusting lengths and colors and threads, and I wonder how complex though that would get as far as number of combinations, and then having to display outwardly in the world. Because the thing I wonder here too is having such a very in-depth character creator is how difficult is that if you're putting entities in 1,000 entities in a server, and you're trying to show hundreds of these different characters, details in a small area. Like, how challenging is that just from a networking side? And even more so if you're able to do tailoring stuff. But that'd be really cool. That'd be really neat to open up a shop like that and be able to truly craft something that is your own.
I have to imagine part of the level of detail that they're going to be using, the level of detail process, will also include lowering the quality and transmission of details of features, such that if there's 1,000 people running around or fighting in close quarters, you might not necessarily see the engravings on their swords, and you might not see the whole of the detail on their badges and their buttons and all that sort of stuff. And it doesn't matter because in that heat of the moment, you're not focused on how they look. You're focused on trying to kill them or not be killed by them or heal them or get some heals or whatever your interaction with that person is. And
I
so
don't
to
know.
that extent, I think it's yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say Diggs might be, admiring the armor. I don't know.
Sir,
Not in the
step
middle.
on the battlefield. I
As a-
have to know your tailor's name.
As a sword's coming at him.
Not in the middle of battle, but I expect not to be in battle quite so much. So,
That would be pretty neat, actually. I'd like that idea of a tailor, even with weaponsmithing. Somehow being able to incorporate something like that, and then giving through, I guess, skill as you develop, getting your own sort of sigil or some sort of patch that you can put on all of the pieces, so that it's clearly yours. Even because people will copy the good pieces later. That'd be pretty neat, actually.
I also see the bounty hunters trying to get the stuff, and the player killers having the bragging rights. I took this person down.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I got their custom thing.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, but doesn't it have some kind of decay? It's got something on it that doesn't make it worth it. That kind of makes it worthless. So I don't know that you would care. But so prior to the character creator, I think I was thinking of maybe 3 alts. Most likely there'll be a Diggs avatar, and then I was thinking my main would be a Vec rogue. Now that they're kind of wiry instead of big and hulking, I might change that. But
Why? They're just kind of goblin-y now.
yeah, but they're kind of thin and wiry goblin-y rather than massive Hulk, orcish.
You can maybe make them pretty thick.
We might be able to. So I'm thinking to take a look at that. But now that we know that we can go in and really customize our minions, like the ones that'll be guarding our freeholds, possibly the ones that are guarding our caravans, our personal caravans, the mercenaries that we hire, the NPC mercenaries that we hire for that. I might have to have like really focus on a set entourage, like have like 5 or 6 that are just my entourage. That's kind of cool. And I'm trying to figure out like who I would want in my entourage and how I want them to look. That's kind of fascinating.
that's hilarious. I didn't even think of that either.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Do they cost more if you make them musclier?
I mean, depends on whatever you give them, right? What level can you make them and all that stuff. I guess that would be part of the cost I would expect. What gear you're going to get for them, all that stuff. But yeah, Matt Broom, I always wanted to ask him about, interview him so I could drill him on screen about the default. Normally, default characters that we see are European males, and it would be nice sometimes to have the default first things that we see in Character Creator to be non-European females. And they kind of touched on it a little bit this time, that the reason why we didn't see females is it takes a little bit more, but that's because they started with males. It would still be nice sometimes to start with females, and then as default, and then work towards getting males in there. But it's not really super surprising that no, they didn't have females. But that's what I was going to say too. So yeah, so Because you mentioned in the chat, Phantom, that moving to UE5 kind of gives us a little peek into where in the schedule Alpha 2 might fall. And it's the same thing, kind of with changing the Dunier models and also tweaking both the Vec and the Pyre. That kind of gives us an idea of, that's going to cause some amount of delay because it's not what they started off with a year ago. It's not where they were thinking of a year ago, and they're going to have to take time to make those changes. And now we're also going to have to accommodate things like the armor is going to have to accommodate the branchlers, and they might have to accommodate the length of the hair and the beards as well.
Because they said they're gonna put limits, right? So they'll let you go so far.
Yeah.
And then kind of put a hard stop.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and so that's what I'm wondering what they're going to do in terms of the diversity with the Kalar, because we saw a very wide range. Like you can almost do any real world ethnicity that you want just with Kalar. So that has me wondering if what we were seeing was just like default human, really, if that's really an Alar that we saw in the demo, and they're gonna split those ethnicities up some more and restrict them to, these are the type that you can do with Valoon, and these are the type that you can do with Kalar, but between the two you can make any ethnicity you want. Or I'm wondering if the Valoon will now have more fantasy options, kind of like the difference between the Vec from the Renkai, or the difference between the Pyre from the Empyrean. So I'm wondering if the Valoon might have fantasy colors, or either for skin tones or hair color. I'm just wondering if they'll do something like that to differentiate the Valoon from magically, or like they also have more affinity with essence or something like that, kind of like the Pyre seem to. I just wonder.
They're gonna have 6 fingers.
Ooh. Yeah, that would be kind of crazy. And it makes it interesting. I wonder how that's going to affect. All this is going to, like, I wonder how the Vec. I don't know if we talked about the Vec and the Pyre since we saw those changes.
No, I don't think so.
But it makes me wonder how that affects the lore, because that shouldn't have been possible on Sanctus, given that Sanctus doesn't have magic. And I think that Steven mentioned with the Vec that their appearance changed because of their attunement with the stars and blah 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 blah. But that seems very strange in a world with no magic. And evolving branch.
It was the lack of magic that changed them.
Okay, that also seems strange.
But what is magic? Maybe it's a world of different physics. Maybe the physics of that world is somehow different.
Yeah, well, of course they are.
What you might call magic. Now, we're not calling it magic. We're calling it science.
Yeah.
With the animal husbandry, I also wonder how they'll use it there. If it'll be a tool where you take 2 animals, breed, kind of see what you're going to get. Part of me hopes that's not the case, because there's been this idea of sort of breeding and not knowing exactly what you're going to get out of it, and the possibility of getting something just really weird out of it. When you start talking about genetics, sort of crossbreeding and mutations and things. But at the same time, as your character improves in skill and knowledge, maybe I could see where as you breed, you get to understand more about what the outcomes are, and so you get you start to see that sort of UI. Okay, I have a 75% chance that this is what this horse will look like when I'm finished, and 25% chance you're completely wrong. I think that would be...
Actually, I kind of like the idea of not being able to tell necessarily from visual appearance that just because it inherited 75% of parent A's appearance doesn't mean that it didn't get 75% of its physical, how strong and healthy and all that from parent B. And so I actually kind of like the idea that appearance is not entirely indicative of things. And I also wonder with all this, there's gonna have to be some sort of, I guess, dichotomous choice that everything isn't a complete blend, because I don't really know otherwise how the stuffed animals in the wizard area, when you breed them with other animals, like your Stufferton bear, like what happens when you breed that with a normal bear? Or is it going to be one of those restricted, like, you catch it, that's the state it is, that's all you ever get sort of things? And
first, we need to have a discussion about what stuffed bears are meant for.
Well, seems like stuffed bears wouldn't be breedable, but
That's what I...
Well, how do we get more of them?
magic. Which is how we
Okay,
got them in the first place.
But they interact in all other ways like a tameable, rideable mount.
Yeah,
But
it's
they
just...
don't have actual DNA.
You go down to the Harry Potter looking freehold that's like across the street from the Mount Doom, and kind of catty corner to the Wild Wild West one. You'll find them there. I don't know how many people will get that, but...
Oh, I can't really see all of those places from the door of my Hobbit. Wobbit Wobble. No, I was looking through my house, like, oh wait, I do have that one. Oh wait, I do have this skin. I don't really need anything from this month's stuff, except maybe I'll get that wristband thing. It'll go nice with the Lumilycan stovepipe, the glowing mushroom hat.
I haven't really bought anything for quite some time from their store.
Well, you got your embers. When the time comes, I'm sure you'll see stuff and get stuff.
Yeah, I'll be too busy farming.
Yeah,
well,
and then so it has me wondering too, like color palettes. So I was thinking of like I think my Vec was going to be a Ranger Rogue, and that would mean they'd possibly want to use the whatever that's in the cosmetic shop this month, which seems like a woodland leafy type thing. But if it's green, I don't know how well that's going to look against the blue skin. Do we have to rethink our armor sets? I mean, that's kind of, the Pyre didn't have branchlers when we were originally thinking of them. Are we going to have to rethink what we thought we were going to place on them? It's kind of interesting. We haven't mentioned what we thought of the Pyre and so we saw the Pyre and the Vec. I think we already had an idea of what the Nakua were going to look like, although I hear people are now calling the Nakua halflings or hobbits, and the Dunir are proper dwarves, and then the Vec now look more goblinoid or like trolls. Many people have the reaction
people
that
trolls.
Like troll, the WoW
like
trolls.
WoW trolls specifically. Yeah, that's yeah, and then all derivations of trolls that were done in that style by people who played WoW and Warcraft. But yeah, I think we'll see how things go with that. You might be able to do green for the skin for them. We didn't really see a whole range of options. We saw the same body tattoo for all of them, so
Yeah.
they clearly didn't have very much going. Okay, I'll ask you this, Stiggs. If you plan to have more of a forest hunter, would you go with green skin with a forest camo tattoo, full body?
So my question about tattoos, I like that we have not just the tattoos, but the scarification. Well, the ritual scarification that was on the Vec. Also, some of my characters are gonna have some of those scars that were demoed that you can place anywhere. One of my characters is probably gonna have that scorpion tattoo in white over the face. That was awesome. But my thing with the Vec that we saw on Thursday is, am I going to be able to do an invisible transmog on my armor so that I can show off the chest tattoos and scarification?
That's a good question.
You know, I think I
I
want to have
think
something, but I want to show that off.
for equipment identification purposes, I thought they said things will only transmog within the type of armor that it is. So light armor, medium, heavy armor. I don't know what sort of unarmored things they're going to have or offer.
Yeah, what's
Or
the
if
point
there's
of
going
having
to
all
be
that
yeah.
crazy scarification on the chest? It looks awesome.
It's for
if
when you're in
just
the
gonna cover it
tavern
up
later.
anyway.
You get back, you're in the tavern. That's when you show off.
Okay.
Or
bed.
when you've been going out being a PK, you get finished off by bounty hunters a few times, you lose all your stuff, and then you walk into town naked. It's like, all right, I'm redeemed. I'm just gonna drink.
There's plenty, you know.
Yeah,
No,
so I don't know.
I completely get, and that could actually be something about their armors and the way they wear their armors. That except for things like a full plate that's like super full coverage, they might have things that are like more open, more like strapped on plates and cuirasses and stuff
My
like
guess,
that.
if we had Steven here, he would say risk versus reward. If you want to show off your chest, go for it, but there's a risk that comes with it. Now, I would wonder if they do, if you have a character class that allows for that play style, right? Well, it doesn't really matter if I have a leather chest piece, iron, cloth. If a bare chested, it does my character's combat style does not rely on that. Maybe that's something you would go for, Diggs. I don't know.
Well,
You could be a
I've been
farmer with
thinking
me and just not wear it. That's fine.
not wear anything.
Ride around the
naked
horse in the
farming.
plot. You know?
I've been thinking for quite a while that it would be cool to have tattoo armor, because that's what it would have been in Polynesian and maybe even some Native American cultures. You would be using tattoos as your armor. So I wish we could actually have a system like that would allow tattoos to work as part of your armor.
You're pretty neat. I like that.
And
I like that as a form of light armor specifically, because to me that very much has like a resistant to magic, and then I have to dodge your physical attacks because they will hurt me, sort of thing.
Speaking of Polynesia, that's a nice segue into Ombwa, who has a focus on Polynesian culture and was hoping to be able to use that. So I'm hoping he gets to work that in now that is it senior quest designer? Is that what the title is?
Something like that.
I guess for those who aren't aware,
Or is that at the last place?
I mean, we haven't even been able to mention that he is. For those who know, Umbwa's been on in chat a lot. Just DOP crew. Everything you can think of is on now with Ashes of Creation. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
he had worked on Revival. He had worked on Chronicles of Illyria for, unfortunately, when they were probably already out of money, but hadn't quite admitted it yet. He basically spent a year writing the main storyline for New World, and then when working at Amazon wasn't doing it anymore, switched over to a company with some promise. Hey, and there he is in chat. And so that's one of the things, and it's I don't know if it's the sort of thing that we this is his story to tell essentially, but I'm gonna bring it up. This wasn't his first time applying to Intrepid, and they really liked him the first time, so they pretty well rushed, gave him a design test. He aced it, as we would expect from somebody of his experience and seniority, and since then has been making a significant impact on the game already. So to what extent, I don't know, because vagary is about all we can get from somebody working on something under NDA. It's just we got the right person in the right place on this one, and I'm really excited for what that's going to do for the game.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and Rift. Funny story. Again, this is his story to tell. Rift was just an example. That was just one example of a socketed event in the game world that they were working on. And that unfortunately got hijacked by a producer, and Rift became Rift because they didn't have any, real vision. But yes, this story, that's right. But the concepts for more of this modular world-based design and being able to create you're not creating necessarily quests for characters, you're creating quests in the world that characters interface with. That's what's coming to Ashes of Creation, and that's one of the things that I like about it, is that you don't have static NPCs in this sandbox experience and people waiting for you. And let me just say, Alpha 1, that was the experience. It felt like a theme park. We more or less had almost all of the same experiences, and I was fine with that because it was a technical test. It wasn't supposed to be the thing to show off the story. None of the story in it was any keeper material whatsoever. So anybody who's worried about the story based on what they've seen and played so far, don't even, it hasn't even started getting good yet. We know some of the stuff, we know some of the lore, we know some of the origins of the Pathfinder game, from which Vera is the game world, basically. That's Steven's own project. And so, go ahead.
I know. You finished. No, I was just. This is a perfect transition into narrative. That at the end of that video, the last, they always do that at the Q&A. And there are a lot of really fast questions. So I'm trying to remember exactly the way he worded this. But there was a question about the lore and the narrative that they are putting forward, and he had a very interesting answer about the difference between sandbox games and theme park games, and how you come to this door in a sandbox game and how there's nothing behind it, and the excuse is because the players create the content, and how that's sort of a cop-out, and how their design is you come to the door and you open it and they have something there, a variety of different choices. It depends on where you're at within nodes and the sort of story of the world. But it was a very fascinating answer, and also one that I can't imagine the amount of work that is going to go into creating all of that, and how much of it no one will ever see. I'm very curious about, just because.
That's why I'm happy that there's multiple servers.
Well, even then, I mean, how I guess he's never really talked about the scope. Are we wanting, is the idea to have so much lore and content that no server is ever truly the same, because that would be
for sure.
that would be a lot, right? Because you have so many choices where, you would think that at some point you would run the same scenario, one server to the other, just by chance of occurrence. But if not, that's a lot of stuff. So I'm curious, like, okay, well, it's all conjecture, but it was just an interesting answer to one of his questions.
Yeah, well, some of it is dependent on what race is dominant at what stage, and also then what buildings and services are built. So,
well, and because I've always commented that, because I did this with Landmark too, that this whole concept that you'll create a game that's entirely sandbox. The players create everything. Like, that's just never going to work. That won't happen. You don't have enough talent. They would be game designers if they were that good. Like, you run into some really good community creators. I mean, Landmark had them, but there's not a lot of them, not enough to create content. So, his answer was very satisfying to me because it made sense.
yeah, is that there, and he's talked about that before, that you need curated content, curated dev content, but also what we're finding, and I think that was the hook for, at least for me, for EverQuest Next, and it's what I've been looking for in some of these other games that we've been following, is I don't really like the players are the content concept, but there is some of that there, that our interaction with the world, and especially with the cities that we're building. So it's a very different feel when you're coming into a world and you're building the cities and the towns, and you also have to defend them, whether it's from the environment, tornadoes or earthquakes, or hordes of monsters coming in to destroy your city, or other people coming in to destroy your city. It's very different than just fighting because you're fighting, and fighting because you've spent time building this town and you don't want your town to be destroyed. I think that's a much more and have the actual possibility of it being destroyed, rather than just you lose the battle and it's still there. Those kinds of consequences, I do think, make PvP more interesting and actually give you some stakes worth fighting for.
Mm-hmm. It'll never be interesting to me. Say, give me PvP crafting, and then maybe we'll talk.
Well, if you have to protect the stuff that you're crafting with, but we'll see.
Well,
no, you have to go to the lake and get the bomb fish, so that way they've got something to load into the cannons.
There you go. Or you're gonna go poison their food, send your rogue in there to make everyone throw up and shit their pants. They have the character physically can't move as fast as it used to till it wears off. It'd be wonderful. That I'd do all day. Let me cook up some really weird shit. That's fine. We got about 10 more minutes. So anything else with the character creator? Anything favorite about it?
I definitely like how everything looked. I didn't see anything where they were changing a feature or moving something or doing something with it that really seemed out of place. It looked smooth. It looked intuitive. There's definitely more they can do with it, but for where it's at, especially for something that's just going to be for Alpha 2, I feel like we're going to really, really, really be able to enjoy the characters. There is one major thing that the external character creator probably needs, and I think in terms of helping promote the game and get people interested, this might be a worthwhile sort of thing, is being able to, after you've chosen the appearance of your character, press a button to go into a test environment. You can choose a class, you can choose, maybe some equipment. You can see what they look like with some different equipment, some different classes, some different animations. So that way they can really see, like, how does everything look in motion with equipment. They decide, no, the thighs are too bulky, there's too much clipping in the legs and the armor. They can kind of slim the thighs down a little bit, or reshape them in some way to kind of help with that. That sort of stuff. If they don't like the way their hair looks with a certain helmet, they might switch to a different hair because they plan to wear helmets most of the time. There's a lot of sort of stuff like that that I think will really help to draw players in as a promotional tool to put the character creator out there. It doesn't have to connect to any servers or anything. I would imagine the way that we would want to be able to share these files with other people would be some sort of either simplified file that's essentially unhackable and isn't something that's going to be able to cause any damage if you share it to somebody else. Like no malicious code can go into it, or if it's just something where you just log in and then you just, once you've got your thing saved, you send it to somebody else that wanted their character to look a certain way, so they commissioned you to make it for them in exchange that they bought you a something or other from the shop. I don't know. However you negotiated it, but I think that sort of stuff, being able to really fine tune it, share it, and kind of test and play with it, is the sort of stuff that people will really be looking for.
I think they should make it free.
Oh yeah, the character creators totally be free.
Mm-hmm. But download from their website. Let people
Download
play
it from
around.
Steam
Or Steam. Talk about a great way to bring people in. I just spent 10 hours creating this character I want to play. I want to use them.
Yeah, that's kind of the downside of it is once you create some characters that you like, you're like, why can't I get in and do anything with it? But again, it'll be cool to create an entourage and some templates, and once we're able to share them and all that stuff, it'll be kind of fascinating.
The character for me, the eyes, I put this in chat, that's sort of what stood out. Like, not just getting the skin textures and the tattoos and this sort, but the way the actual avatar almost looks like it has like a consciousness behind it, like a soul that's wrapped up in there somewhere, is like that's the height of, I think, artistic like work right there, when you can get a human being to almost think that what they know is fake has something, a hint of realness behind it. It's like perfect.
And I think they're going farther with that. He said they maybe look at the cursor. Why are you doing this to me? Or hey, what are you messing with? So
that would be hilarious, actually. Yeah, you change their arm to look like really messed up, and they look at you really weird. That'd be hilarious. There was one other thing he mentioned in the question, the Q&A portion, that I thought was interesting, and maybe I should have known this, or I don't know, but that they were talking about instance worlds, and that it will have its use, or instance areas within the world that will
20%
for either storytelling or whatever it might be, but that you will never find a best in slot item in an instanced world. I thought that was an interesting answer, that everything that will be considered best in slot for equipment, you will have to compete for out in the wide open world, which I think is good. Again, not my super interest point for me, but I think that will add to the idea of the player-driven story of the world. So, anything else?
I'll just say he also mentioned having marquee characters, which I think is what I typically call iconic characters. So it was nice to hear mention of that possibility, but I hope that if they do that, we have some non-European humans among those marquee characters.
Yeah, I mean that's one of those things that for me is a really big deal because then we start to swing the pendulum back towards a meow if you can actually meet these people throughout the game, develop some sort of meaningful relationship with them through, multiple interactions and that sort of stuff. Yeah, that to me is great. And if there's a few more key characters that you can do that with, a few specific merchants, a few specific like officers from, one of the empires from Sanctum or whatever, that sort of stuff. I think that's a great sort of thing to have and to be able to have that just with the characters who matter, essentially, that you decide that matter. And so with something like that, it doesn't matter if Jim the Bowyer dies because the town was destroyed and you lost one of your mid-tier specialist crafters from that area. He didn't matter. There was someone there that did matter, and they actually left. And so that's the sort of thing that I'm kind of interested to see the potential for coming into this.
And now that you mention that, NPCs dying, um, with this blend tool and how we can get family members who look like each other, yeah, maybe Fippy Darkpaw can finally die and Sippy Darkpaw will take his place. So it's not exactly Fippy, but it looks pretty much like Fippy, only it's a brother or maybe a sister or cousin. Um, That'd make me feel a whole lot better than just you killed them and they come back and are doing exactly the same thing that they were before you killed them.
Most persistent NPC ever made.
I'm
Mhm.
typing here. Sorry.
All good. Um, so it was kind of a fun sort of thing. Interesting that they did it on a Thursday instead of a Friday because they wanted to push it back to get us the character creator. And I'm glad they did. And it was nice to see it in the state that it's at. I'm excited to see more when they're ready to show more. They don't really need to show more again for a little while, though. That was pretty good.
Well, no, I mean, we need to see all of the races in at some point, right? It's going to be some point before Alpha 2. We'll see all of the races in there. And the big thing, I think, not even in the character creator, it would be nice to start seeing some concept art for the Tulnar, because we haven't seen any since 2017, really. And I have a feeling they don't look like the concept art from 2017.
We'll see. They've kind of been keeping a lid on the Tulnar.
Well, it took a long time just to get 3D models of um, the orcs. So, I mean, I don't think orcs were not ready in 3D a year ago. So, we shall see.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that being said, it is 9:01. So, as I said, as the applications for the content creator program come to an end, we need to start creating content. So, this is me publicly committing to that, hopefully, as we move forward. So, we will hopefully be back in a week and have some more stuff, fun stuff to talk about. We didn't get to really anything, most of that Q&A or anything else. So, yeah, lots to go back over.
Yep.
So everyone have a good week, and we will see you here not too long from now.
See you later, folks.